Hi guys, Randall here. Today we're talking about the Evil Eye Golden Ahriman combination of Vision Card and Esper. The Vision Card I think is really good for Wind. If you did pull for Joom, it's probably a must pull on your list because it will have a long time value I think. But the Esper is really the biggest price in there. It is one of those Espers that have a high amount of defense that they're providing and good slash resistance. It's just a really good combination. It is obviously great for Wind and for Joom and whatnot, but I think even in Rainbow teams or in teams that are not Wind oriented, it will be a really good Esper to have. So most players should consider at least whether they already have a bunch of Espers with defense up and they don't need it, or whether it could be a good investment for them. Now, in terms of stat, this VC is really designed for more bruisey physical attackers. It has 400 HP, which is rather high for a Vision card. 130 attack is in the middle tier, and 3 defense is really good, especially if you would equip this on somebody like Joom. The individual ability is a mix of offense and defense, so you get 10% attack. VCs can go up to 30% in the individual slot, so this is not top tier, but you also get single target resistance up 10%, which I feel like is pretty good, especially if you have the Tifa VC on top on your team. You have 30% for that unit, and it starts being quite a bit. You also get some HP up in the global exclusive buff. We don't know the value yet. I'm expecting it to be between 20% if they're feeling very generous, or 10%. Considering how strong the VC and Esper is, it might just be a 10%. We'll see. I can't take the decision for Gumi. Now, the party ability is pretty solid. 20% magic resistance, 25% attack, and 35% dex. The dex mostly influences your crit rate and crit evasion, but also accuracy a little bit, so it's not a bad stat to have, especially if you're running characters like To Be or Winter Dwartha that do have some critical synergy. It's kind of an upgraded version over Irresistible Darkness, the Vision card that provides you with 12% magic resistance and 35% attack. Now, what do these stats look like as a secondary Vision card? It is losing quite a bit of power, but I still think it's kind of worth running. In the individual slot, you're going to get 4.6% attack instead of 10%. Single target resistance is really shut down at only 2%, and the HP, well, we don't know the percentage originally. Party, you'll get 8% magic resistance, which is still very decent, 12% attack, and 27% dexterity. So it's mostly a dexterity buff, but, you know, having some attack and some magic resistance, I feel like every single stat in there is valuable, and so because of that, even if the values are lowered, it's still a pretty damn good secondary VC. There's also not a ton of great Wind Vision cards, so if you're equipping them right now and you have, you know, a 3-man PvP team, you probably don't have 6 fully maxed Wind-oriented Vision cards to equip in both the primaries and secondary slots, and so this will be a great addition for Wind teams in general. If you're not pulling for it, there are still a couple of alternatives, mostly in the magic resistance department. The Fenrir VC provides just as much, or you could run Irresistible Darkness. You have a little bit less magic resistance, a little bit more attack, and it's overall not a bad trade-off. And then you have the Gift Like No Other, which does not provide you with magic resistance, but does give 50% attack. I think there's going to be a great combination where you run one of them in the primary slot, the other in the secondary slot, and they could be great together, but depending on your need, you could also just slot them both in your team and be redundant a little bit with the attack buffs. I don't think any of these are quite as good as the Golden Ahriman card for Wind units. Naturally, I mean, there has to be an incentive for you guys to pull it, but don't think it's irreplaceable. In terms of wearers, there aren't that many Wind units that are physical oriented that are not time limited. You only have 4 of them. There's Corwell, which is pretty good. Lucia, who I have yet to see EX'd, so I'm not sure exactly how she'll go. And right now, Yermine Oldoa are kind of jokes, but with their second mastery ability, maybe they'll see a little bit of play. So if you did not pull for Joom or do not have the backlog of Winter Dwartha, Tifa, and or To Be, this is probably not that worth it as a Vision card. Maybe you should pull it for the Esper and, you know, maybe max the Vision card as well if you really want to be future-proof. But the thing is, on the JP side, Joom was released before Winter Dwartha, and since then, the only Wind unit that has been released, it was Winter Dwartha. So if I'm looking at our current backline of future Wind units, there are none for the next couple months, unless we get a surprise. So don't expect to have a chance to replenish or make your Wind account a lot stronger in the near future. I think we've already gotten all we'll be getting for a while. Now, moving on to the Esper, which I think is a great get. You can tell this Esper has 1400 HP, which is very high for an Esper. Over 100 attack is decent. It's not top tier, but it's acceptable. 13 agility is quite low, and then it has average luck and dexterity. The stun resistance of 25% is not the best. I would prefer seeing charm resistance or stop resistance, but hey, it's something. Then it only has a 5% weakness to ice. More often than not, Espers have a 10% weakness, and then 10% resistance to earth. The evocation ability I am not the biggest fan of, but I guess it could be good. It has a 25% base chance to petrify, chance to blind, chance to silence, but it doesn't do any damage, so that's a little bit of a strange thing, and it's single target. So if you're running this on a high faith unit, 25% base chance to petrify could completely screw them over, but chances are you're running this on a more bruisery character type and a physical oriented character, so you likely will have low faith, which means I'm not expecting this to land, and if you're just landing a blind and or silence, it's not as impactful. Then you get to decrease wind resistance, buff your wind units for a while. That's all good. It's useful in some shenanigans like Bucks events where you want to decrease wind resistance for enemies. But overall, I would not pull for the ability. I'm much more interested in the Esper Nodes. So what are these nodes? In terms of offense, you'll see that it's really more of a wind-oriented Esper. Where it gets to be more of a everybody can benefit from the Esper is in terms of the survivability side. So first, offense, 7 accuracy, the average for a UR. I would love to see the 22 that we have, for example, on Odin. It's not an accurate Esper, unfortunately. 25 wind attack is great if you're running a wind unit. It's as much as any Esper is going to give you. 20 crit rate, meh. You guys probably know my feeling about crit. I don't like it very much, so I will not be leveling this myself. And then some earth or plant killer if you really need it. What I really like is on the other end. 15 defense is great. No Esper gives you more than that. It's as much as what Golem gives you, for example, so that's really good. 25 slash resist is incredibly high. Most Espers give you 15 or 20, so when I see a 25, I'm very happy. Pairing that on top of 15 defense will allow you to mitigate damage from quite a few people very highly. 7% HP on a tank is good. It's not a stat I would look at. And then ice resistance 25 is also really high. I don't know that there are that many scenarios where you will need it because ice is not such a prevalent element right now, but eventually if there's a super good ice unit that starts changing the meta, you will be happy to have this Esper in your backline. Yes, it does have a 5% weakness to ice, but overall it gives you a 25% resistance if you have this maxed and the Esper equipped. And then 22 crit evasion, again, I don't feel like this is the most impactful of nodes. So overall, should you pull? I think it's a tough question. There is a lot of good stuff coming in the future. There's going to be the Final Fantasy IV, and then Setya, and then Final Fantasy VI, and then Persona, and then Astoria. There's a bunch of great units, and you need to make sure you have the viz to pull whatever you want out of this. So I would recommend you to take a look at the schedule, make sure you do have enough saved, and if you have enough to pull for an Esper, potentially, this is a great one to get. If you did pull for Joom, and you want your win team to be as strong as can be, this is a no-brainer, I think. But if you don't have a very strong win team, you decided to skip Joom for this reason or another, and you're not interested in building the strongest win team you can, then you can safely skip the VC, and you should consider maybe if the Esper is for you. If you already have a bunch of other Espers with defense, marginally the gain might not be there. But overall, I think an Esper that gives you 15 defense, 25 slash resist, potentially 25 ice resistance, will have scenarios where it's a really good one, win team or not. So my intention is to pull for it. I do have the Joom and win team ready for that, so my justification is right there. You guys take a look at your account and take the decision that you feel makes the most sense. So that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys found this interesting. Let me know your thoughts. Are you guys going for this? And if you are or aren't, please let me know why. I'm very curious to hear people's train of thoughts on this one. But that's going to be it. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.